I went to graduate school to study directing. And while I was there, I read a book by Margot Jones. Margot, are you there? And
Is that Connie?
And she was in Dallas. She had written a book called, I think, The Theater Go Round. I won't swear to that, but and she described how to start a theater. For a budget, all the kinds of things you needed. And it was a kind of eye-opener to me. And I was studying directing, so when I graduated, my choice was, because I wanted to become a director, a professional director, go to New York and do whatever it is you do to get such a job, or alternatively start a theater, the way Margot Jones did, and hire yourself. and so I decided to do that, but I had no idea where to do it. And I went to see a professor at Yale, where I was. His name was John Gassner, marvelous, marvelous man. And I told him what I wanted to do, and he thought that might make sense. And he suggested Hartford as a place to do it that was wealthy enough, sophisticated enough to support such a thing, and didn't have one. I have to admit, I didn't know where Hartford was, and I was only and I was in New Haven, so you would think that's pretty close. But so I came up here, and the whole plan was to get a job as a director, and you had to have a theater to do that. And so it was kind of like a political campaign, really. You'd meet someone, tell them what you're trying to do, implore them to gather a few friends at their house, and you would come and talk to them all, and then in turn ask each of those to gather some of their friends, and it sort of spread out, more and more. And I bumped into a guy who was, he was an editorial writer in the Hartford Times, and he gave me a little piece in his editorial page saying there's a fellow wandering around town with a good idea, and if he stops you, give him a few minutes. And so I did that. I went to the Chamber of Commerce and said, I want to start a theater in your fair town. Who's in charge? They let me give a presentation of my ideas at their monthly meeting. And before it, Ken Burke, who was the publisher of The Current, I think, he had done some background checking on me, and he made me sound like really an accomplished, extraordinary person. And he got all that information from John Gassner, I expect. And so anyway, they said, yes, we endorse your idea, it makes good sense, and I got a column inch in their monthly paper. And but I just kept at it, and gradually, I met certain people, Jack Huntington, let's see, it was Jack Huntington, Charles Lord, who was at the Hartford National Bank, and he was the one in some ways, maybe made it most possible. I remember having dinner at his house. My tooth still hurts because there was some buckshot and something that he'd shot some birds that day. And I told him what I wanted to do. He asked his wife, and he said, what do you think? And she said, Charlie, I don't see how you can say no. And I had asked him to head up the Founders Committee and raise some money. And I knew how much because Margot Jones had told me. Now, of course, none of it proved accurate. It had to be more. But, and Jack Dollard, an architect here in town, he helped me look around. We found a space. And so it went, and gradually we got it together enough to open with Othello. The notion was we would do 4 plays for 2 weeks each, starting in the summer, and if Hartford didn't like it, we would leave town. If they did like it, we could have a proper season in the fall of I think 7 or 8 plays for a month each. And that's what we did. And it all seemed to go very well. And well, that's how it got started.
That's fantastic, yes.